the Westlandia book. I'm sorry. Alright, I'm going to try to record this one more time. My husband feels like it's necessary to continue interrupting, so I'm going to try this a third time. Alright, so...
Way to call me out. Well, why would you tell the kids that? I'm going to try this one more time. My husband was trying to, clean and help me out, Well, what he's trying to do.
Okay, so
our last Mesoamerican civilization or group of people that we are going to talk about is the Incas. So we've done the Mayans, the Aztecs, and now we are on the Incas. The Incas lived in what is modern-day Peru in the Andes Mountains. This was a good location for them because there were the river valleys where they had the fertile soil, like we talked about with Mesopotamia and Egypt and some of those early civilizations, that it was a very beneficial, it was a very good place to live because it provided so many natural resources. And then their capital was called Cuzco. So for religion, they, like the Mayans and the Aztecs, were polytheistic. They had lots and lots and lots of different gods. They would build these large stone monuments and everything to honor the gods. They were a little bit less, sort of bloody with the whole sacrifice thing. With the with the Mayans and the Aztecs, it was more of a ritualistic, every week, every month, whatever period of time, that's what was done. The Incas, however, they did practice it, but it was only in desperate times, like, a natural disaster, an earthquake, a drought, something like that, where they were like really, calling out to the gods to help them or whatever, and then they would do that. But it was not a very often occurrence. And their kings were also mummified, much like the pharaohs from ancient Egypt, in a very similar process. Achievements. Okay, so this guy named Pachacuti, I didn't make that up. His name is actually Pachacuti. Him and his son Topa, they made the Incan Empire the largest empire or ancient empire in the Americas together. And so that stretched over 2,500 miles, which to us today doesn't seem like it would, it's kind of like so, but for this long ago, that was a pretty big deal. Pachacuti, also his name actually means, translates to earth shaker. So he was pretty much the guy that we talk about when we talk about the Incas and their leaders. He's really the most significant one that we will talk about. So again, to kind of continue with that, for their politics and government. So Pachacuti was the sole ruler, the main ruler, and he kept a strong central government, meaning that he did keep all the power with him. However, the empire was divided into 4 separate provinces. A province is like a state, basically, like the United States. We have 50 states, little areas. Canada, I believe, has provinces. It's the same concept. It's just little areas. And what he would do is he appointed a leader for each province had its own leader, but it was a leader that was appointed by him, not voted on by the people, but he appointed or chose, he picked which leaders he wanted. And then he did, for the most part, sort of leave them alone, because he had the people that he wanted in place, in power. However, what he did do as sort of like a stronghold, I guess, was that the sons of all the leaders would come to Cuzco for training. For several years, they would be trained on, battle, war, and things like this, along with leadership skills. And they had to come to the city of Cuzco to do this. And it was not like a 2-week thing. It was like a several years long thing. The reason for this was not because it was just essential that it had to happen at Cuzco. It was because that's where Pachacuti lived, and it was almost like a way to sort of assert his power over them. Like, okay, if you do something, like if you turn on me and, you do something against me, you betray me, I've got your kid. So that was actually a very intelligent way of basically keeping them in line. So that was the purpose of that. And he also mandated that everybody learn Quechua, which was the language that they spoke, so that there would be like a universal language which would make communication easier. Okay, economics. So this is something that a concept that we have not talked about yet. It's called a command economy. So there was not very much like money, credit. There was a little bit of bartering between little stuff, but pretty much the government made all the economic decisions. So everybody grew, you had your land, whatever, and you grew your crops, your harvest, and then each person or family would take what they needed, the supply that they needed for their family, and then the government would come and collect all the rest and the extras to store in these big grain storehouses so that it could be distributed as needed. So there's no money, credit, things like this, because you don't need to trade your cow for someone's chicken, because the government is distributing what people need, if that makes sense. Which theoretically sounds like an awesome idea, and it obviously worked well for them. However, once you get into some older grades, you'll see how this can kind of have its flaws eventually, but if done correctly, it's a beautiful system. It makes sense. And P.S., if you're not listening to the video, you won't know what a command economy is when I ask you for your ticket out the door. Alright, social structure. No big surprises here. We've got the king, ruler, his family at the top. Then I kind of comprise these into one big chunk because they're layered a little bit more, but it's not that important. Your priests, your army commanders / leaders, and your artisans or skilled workers. Those are the ones who are skilled in a certain craft or skill. They make up kind of the middle class, and then you've got your farmers and herders and your ordinary soldiers at the bottom of the social structure. So what happened to them? So similar to the Aztecs, where the Spanish conquistadors came in, a similar thing happened with the Incas. So there is this guy named Balboa who is searching for this lost city of gold. He thinks that he's going to find a city where everything is just made of gold. Right? Well, he dies. So another guy named Pizarro is like, all right, let's carry on. And sort of just takes his place, his role, or whatever. They are in search of things like gold, jewels, things that they think are very valuable that they're going to find, which doesn't quite work out that way. So when the Spanish arrive the emperor of the Incas was actually called Atahualpa, and he sort of thought that they could go toe to toe with the Spanish. So he, riles his troops or whatever, and they do prepare for like a war. However, the Spanish have guns, and they have weapons like this. The Incas do not have anything like that, and so they were very easily defeated by the Spanish. And that is what happened to the Incas. Very similar to the Aztecs. No crazy alien conspiracy theories. Sorry, it's not nearly as interesting. But basically, this Europeans came in and were kind of like, hey, guess what, guys? This is ours now because we're better than you and our weapons are better. Oh, well. So that is the not so pretty part of history, but that is what happened. So you guys should have paused along the way on every slide, and you should have all of this written in your notebook because it is not that much to write, and I promise I condensed it as little as I possibly could. So make sure that you have these written in your notebook.